Hi, everyone. Can folks hear me? We're here. We're live. Returning and returning again. Ashiveni ve'ashuva Ashiveni ve'ashuva Chadesh, Chadesh, Chadesh Yemeni kekedem Chadesh, Chadesh Yemeni kekedem. Join me. Hashiveni. The words are in the zine. Ve'ashuva. Hashiveni. Ve'ashuva. Chadesh, Chadesh, Chadesh Yemeni kekedem Chadesh Yemenu Chadesh, Chadesh Yemenu kekedem. Oh, yai dai, ai dai dai. I hear your voices. Ai dai 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 dai. I hear your harmonies. Oh, ai oh, ai da dai dai da da dai dai. Chadesh, 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 Chadesh Yemenu kekedem Chadesh Yemenu Chadesh, Chadesh Yemenu
Hi, folks. I was temporarily muted, but lucky for me, I have a voice again. Huzzah! May that be the turn of this year, right? Maybe find our voice when it is lost from us. Shana Tova. Happy New Year. And Gamar Tov. I'm Rabbi Miriam Grossman, and this is...
I'm Cantor Lisa B. Siegel. Shana Tova. Gemar Chatima Tova, everyone.
And we're so blessed to see so many of you here right now in this moment. I invite you to scroll through. We have 512 screens and many more streaming, watching us as well on YouTube right now. And we know we see many of your homes. There might be 2 people, person and dog. We're more than 512 beings right now. So I invite you to scroll through and just send a wave, send some love out to the people you know and love, and to the people that maybe you don't know, but we're the community right now. So literally, I invite you to scroll through these faces right here. Yes. It is such a blessing to be together. And right now in this moment, we are all bringing so many different things to this space tonight. No one of us has had the same experience over the past 6 months, and probably over the last hour even. And so I invite you in this moment, consider what it is you need from this Yom Kippur. What you need from this Yom Kippur, whether it is rest, renewal, agitation, challenge. None of us need the same things. My blessing and invitation is that you figure out what you can allow yourself, how to allow yourself, whatever it is you need to make this next night and day a holy one. I am gonna give now a few technical announcements, and then we're gonna get grounded, and then we're gonna begin together. So the technical announcements first. So please make sure, especially if you are presenting or speaking at any part in the service tonight, that your name is your full name written here on Zoom, that you change your name, that you rename yourself, so that Joe, our tech person, can help find you. So help Joe find you by making sure that you've got your full name there. That's 1. 2, we are so blessed this year, and we said this on Rosh Hashanah, but we are so blessed this year to have these brand new machzors in our lives. These are were made possible by a generous gift by Bob and Glenn Usden, in loving memory of their incredible parents, beloved longtime Kolotniks, Martha and Marvin Usden. And we chose it for its accessibility and transliteration. So we hope you'll use them. And we are going to periodically drop into the chat box the flip book, which is the digital version of this machzor, of this prayer book. So whether you've got it in your hands or you've got it on your screen, we're all going to be on the same page the whole night. So next, speaking of chat, so as you'll see, there'll be times when the public chat is open and available for us all. There'll be invitations or prompts or just greeting each other. And then there'll be times when only private chat is open. And then there'll be times when no chat is open. And the help desk will drop into the chat each time, whatever it is that we're doing, so that you know, and so that you can begin. I would ask that from this moment forward, to enable the cantor and myself to really be present and really lead and really hold this service, that you don't private chat us anything other than Shana Tova, just so that we can stay focused. Shana Tova is great, but just so that we can stay clear. So if you have questions or thoughts, be sure to send them to the help desk, and we can connect later. Okay, so let's see. Lastly, by way of announcements, from this moment forward, let's just be conscious of, we ask you to now make sure that you're ready for our service together. So that means be sure that your camera is steady and clear, and that you're ready to begin in our service together. And if at any point you need to move your camera, move yourself, that's great. We just invite you to close, stop your video and then come back when you're ready. And last technical announcement, in the unlikely event of a Zoom bomber, which is if someone comes to disrupt, we just want to say, don't you worry, we've got it. So if there's a momentary disruption, you just take a breath and know that we've got it. There's nothing you have to do. Okay, that's all my technical announcements. I just want to give 2 brief announcements by way of arriving together into the space. Okay, 1. I'm going to ask you to sing aloud in your homes as we sing together. To sing aloud, if you don't know the words, Yadidai are always the right words. Let your body be your teacher. Let your home fill with song, and let your mouth fill with song. Secondly, by way of letting your body be your teacher, for those of you who are fasting, we wish you a tzom kal, an easy fast and a meaningful fast. And for those of you who are not fasting, either because it doesn't make sense for you or it's not safe for you or whatever the reasons are, we wish you a day of meaning and connection and power and no shame that you can't be fasting. Here is my final intention before now we move into our candle lighting. And at this point, I'll ask you to stop posting in the public chat, though you still can do private chats. Okay, so centuries ago, Philo of Alexander, he's this Egyptian Jewish philosopher from many centuries ago. He said the following blessing about fasting, which I love. He said, when you make a beautiful meal, when you find yourself about to eat a beautiful meal, you pause. Right before you eat it, you pause. The year ahead of us is the meal. Everything that's ahead of us can be an abundant harvest, a great meal. And because the meal is so long, we pause before the meal that much longer. We fast for a full day, or we pause for a full day. However you are pausing, however you are making space for yourself this night, may you find rest, may you find connection in this community, and may we be blessed for a year of harvest and abundance ahead of us. Amen. I am now going to invite Sandy Abramson to come off of mute. Sandy will be lighting the candles on behalf of the Kolot board, and the cantor will sing the blessing. You can follow along on page 9.
Shana Tova all. It is my honor to be using these beautiful candlesticks that the board donated to Kolot to honor Andrea Arst's years of service to Kolot to light the Kol Nidre candles on behalf of the board. As the great-granddaughter of 2 rabbis, I have always held a special place in my soul for Kol Nidre, the beginning of our most solemn time. I remember standing outside a little steeple that was just about 100 feet from my childhood home, listening to the chazan chanting the haunting melody, watching my father and grandmother sitting so still inside. I couldn't have been older than 8 or 9, and I was mesmerized by the beauty of the prayer, as I still am when I hear our wonderful cantor chant it each year. May you all have an easy fast, and may we each make it into the book of life for 5781. In this so difficult time, Gemar Chatima Tova, and a happy 114th birthday to my wonderful father, Abe.
Beautiful. Thank you, Sandy. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kirshanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Yom HaKippurim. And we sing together a Shehecheyanu in gratitude for being brought to this very moment. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, shehecheyanu v'kimanu v'higianu lazman hazeh.
Amen. So normally, under different circumstances, now is the moment when we would bring out the Torahs. And we wanted to honor what this moment means and to consider what it is at its core, at its essence, and celebrate it in a different way, rather than trying to recreate it here. Just celebrate it in a different way. So we asked a 3-generation Kolot family to reflect on this time and on this ritual and on passing tradition. And so it's my incredible pleasure to cue up this video we're about to see that comes to us from Russ Pierce, Michelle, Anne, Seth, the kids, Lev, Rafi. Many humans are in this video. I hope that you cherish it as I have in watching it.
Kol Nidre is a legal ceremony where 3 members of the congregation remove 1 Torah scroll each from the ark. The 3 Torah holders represent the 3 judges on a Bet Din, a Jewish court. Before this symbolic court, the congregation stands and recites the legal formula that we know as Kol Nidre.
Through these words, we ask to be freed from our vows to God, vows that we could not keep, vows that we will not be able to keep, vows that we never wanted to make in the first place, but were forced to, like vows during forced conversions. We ask the symbolic court to release us from these vows, in the hope that God and the heavenly Bet Din will release us from their consequences and judge us with mercy.
During Kol Nidre, in more normal times, we take the Torah out of the ark to establish the seriousness of the court. We don't read it, and this is a little odd. Usually, we read the Torah when we take it out, but here we don't, and we're not talking about a specific passage. Instead, we pass the Torah around to feel its weight, to remind us of the gravity of the situation, the seriousness of the sins we have committed, and of our hope for forgiveness.
But today, of course, we're gathered virtually. We can't touch the Torah and hand it to each other. We can't touch each other. It makes it particularly hard to conceive of a ritual that's specifically about holding. And so our special challenge this year is, how do we capture the significance of this moment without the weight of the Torah to serve as a physical reminder? And this in the context of so much of the material of our lives and the materiality of our lives having dropped out.
I teach students virtually.
I make arguments about the law virtually.
I do Pilates virtually.
I have meetings virtually.
I talk to Nation Fox on FaceTime.
But at the same time, all of us have had to face new material realities.
I change more diapers than ever before, and it's not virtual at all.
I clean up toys all the time, and it's definitely not virtual.
I take walks in the woods, and it's not virtual.
I've learned to cut my own hair. Really?
I run in the sprinkler for real, and my hair gets wet.
And of course, the backdrop to our lives is incredibly material. COVID is transmitted through physical proximity,
And it can kill you.
and it's hard to imagine anything more material than that. For the many who have been fighting this disease in hospitals, for the many who have lost loved ones,
These times are anything but virtual.
But while we cannot hold our Torah tonight and feel its physical weight and the obligation to protect its legacy, we must find a new way to embrace the seriousness of this moment, to hold on to the spiritual weight of the Torah.
Rabbi B'nai Lappi, the founder of Svara, teaches that the 613th of the 613 commandments in the Torah requires each of us to write a Torah. She does not mean this in the material sense, that we must each write a physical Torah scroll, Rather, she explains that this commandment requires us to make our life work and journey, a Sefer Torah, to walk through the world as the embodiment of the living Torah.
Tonight, as we plead for release of our vows, we do not do so under the weight of a physical Torah scroll. Instead, we do so under the weight of a commitment to embodying our values that have been passed down across generations, across our Torah, and to make our hopes for a better year into a material as well as a virtual reality.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. And I'm so glad we can still run through the sprinkler and that our hair will still get wet for real, as we were just taught. One thing I want to say is that we have so many beautiful offerings from so many Kolotniks tonight, tomorrow, and on Rosh Hashanah. And we know it can be hard when there's a momentary technical difficulty. So I just want to let you know that everything that is recorded and the text of much of what is said can be available online later. So try to just relax into this moment. If you don't catch something, that's okay. We're all holding it together, and we'll get as much as we can tonight, but then the offerings will keep coming. So we're now going to move to Or Zarua, which is the light of the righteous, and then the Yeshiva Shel Mala. These are the preludes, the precursor to Kol Nidre itself. What you're about to hear, I think this is something pretty moving. The recording you're about to hear are by folks who were recorded last year, who did not know that the rehearsal for last year's Kol Nidre would need to be the only way we could hear each other together on this night. So this is the rehearsal for last year from the cantor, Sarah Rifkin, and Mark Brennan on piano. May we all know that our practice, our rehearsing, is just as good. We are just enough as we are in our practicing and our practice. We'll hear this music now, the echoes of a different time last year.
ישיבה של מעלה, ישיבה של מעלה, ישיבה של מעלה, Oh.
Those words, what they mean are they're asking permission. They're asking us, we ask permission from each other to say this next prayer, the Kol Nidre prayer. We ask each other that for all our flaws, for all our striving, that we come together and grant each other permission from all our imperfection to pray these next words together. So Kol Nidre, as you just heard in our last video, is this formula, this sort of magical, ritual, beautiful formula for letting go of oaths and promises and vows, things that we won't carry with us into the next year. And so many say it's an invitation to consider what from this past year must be left behind and what must be carried forward. So I'm going to invite you to put into the chat, if you feel so called, I am carrying, and then tell us something you're still going to take into this next year. Or I'm leaving behind something you're going to leave behind, or work to leave behind, strive to leave behind, to cast out. Sometimes I get a delay as folks are writing. There we go. I'm carrying the demand for safe schools for our babies and the future. Carrying a devotion to justice. Carrying powerful community. Leaving behind the isolation I've been feeling. Leaving behind fears. Carrying commitments to friendships. Carrying hope. Carrying hope. Carrying activism. Carrying the power of my ancestors, leaving behind self-hatred, self-doubt, a corrupt government, taking with me compassion for all, leaving behind fear. There's already 60 below me in a sort of stream of flow. These are our prayers. Ken Yehi Ratzon, may it be so. May we set aside all that does not serve us, all that does not serve justice and human connection and thriving. May we carry forward the best parts of who we are and our shared collective vision of a better world. We'll now hear the cantor chant these words of Kol Nidre, and I invite you to, so you can take your hands off the chat and close the offerings, but to read through these over 100 offerings of what people want to leave or take. That is our shared created prayer this morning, this night. What is happening? What is time? We're going to invite you to rise as you're able, in body or in spirit. And the cantor will sing Kol Nidre twice, first quieter and then getting louder. And you're invited to sing along from in your home. And you can again rise as you're able.
And I'm going to stay seated, but I ask that you all rise for me if you are able. Kol Nidre Esarei V'charamei V'konamei V'chinuyei V'kinusei U'shevuot Din darna U'dish tabadna U'de'acharimna V'dasarna Al-nafshatana Yom Kippurim zeh Ad Yom Kippurim haba Sharon, Shevitin, Betelin Uvutalin, Lashririn Vilakayamin, Nidrana La Nidre, Esarana La Esare, Ushvutana La Shevut. Join me. Kol Nidre Ve'asarei Ve'charamei Ve'konomei Ve'chinuyei Ve'kinusei U'shevuot Dinarna Udishtabana Udeacharimna Vidasarna Anaf Shatana Miyom Kippurim ze Ad Yom Kippurim haba Aleinu Letova Kol honi charadna v'hon Kol hon yehon sharon Shevitin Betelin u'mevutalin Lashririn Vilakayamin Nidrana La Nidre Esarana La Esare Ushvuatan Allah Shevuot. Page 20. You can have a seat. V'nizlach lechol adat b'nei Yisrael v'lager hagar betocham ki lechol ham bishgaga Vayomer Adonai salachti kidvarecha Vayomer Adonai salachti kidvarecha Vayomer Adonai salachti kidvarecha. You can rise again as you're able for the Baruch Hu. Hai la dai 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 hai dai 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 hai dai 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 hai dai 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 can have a seat again. So we move into the Mariv service. We're on page 24. Umavir yom umevi laila umavdil ben yom uven laila Adonai tzvaot shemo el chai v'kayam tim hamidim lo chaleinu le'olam va'ed Hai dai 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 Hai dai 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 Baruch atah Adonai Hamariv Aravim. Next page, Avat Olam, Beit Yisrael Amcha Avta, Torah u'mitzvot, Hukim u'mishpatim, Otanu limadeta. Al kein Adonai Eloheinu, B'shokbeinu u'v'kumeinu, Nasiach b'chukecha, V'nismach b'divrei Toratecha, u'v'mitzvotecha, le'olam va'ed. Ki heim chayenu ve'orech yameinu ve'orech yameinu ubahem negei yomam v'layla ve'avatcha tasin mimenu le'olamim Baruch atah Adonai Ohev amo Yisrael Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Va'ed. Page 30. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha v'chol levavcha v'chol nafshecha v'chol meodecha v'hayu hadvarim ha'ele asher anochi metzavecha hayom al levavecha v'shinantam levanecha v'dibarta bam v'shivtecha b'veitecha uv'lechtecha v'derech uv'shofbecha uv'kumecha ug'shartam leot al yadecha v'hayu letotafot b'neinecha uktavtam al mezuzot beitecha uvisharecha leman tizkeru v'asitem et kol mitzvotai v'tem kedoshim leloechem ani Adonai Elohechem Asher atzeiti etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim liot lachem le'Elohim Ani Adonai Elohechem Adonai Elohechem emet.
So we move out of the Shema towards the Michamocha, which will be on page 40. Michamocha, as we often remind each other here, as I often say, it's this redemption song, it's this freedom song, and the people sing it when they're not yet free, when they're on their way, when they are marching, when they are taking action, and yet they don't know yet. They don't know yet if hope is lost or if they're just a moment away from a different world, from real freedom. It's a song about making the impossible possible by moving forward, regardless. It's a song about moving forward when the future is unknown and nothing is certain. So I want to lift up here in our unknown, nothing is certain present, the words of Rebecca Solnit about hope. Hope comes from the fact that we do not know what will happen. And in the spaciousness of uncertainty is room to act. When you recognize uncertainty, you recognize that you may be able to influence outcomes, you alone or in concert with a few dozen or several million others. Hope is the embrace of the unknown and the unknowable. It is the belief that what we do matters, even though how and when it may matter, who and what it may impact are not things we can know beforehand. Hope is not a lottery ticket that you sit on the sofa, that you sit with on the sofa and clutch. It is an axe you break down doors with in an emergency. So I have, in this Micha Mocha moment, not in the chat, but just in our own hearts, I invite you to lift up in your mind a time, either personally, collectively, a struggle that seemed impossible, but was won by moving forward through the unknown. May we be blessed in our hope, and may we be blessed in our action. On page 40, Micha Mocha.
Turn to page 42 with all of those voices, and I swear I can hear them in my head, all of your voices, all of your harmonies. I feel it, I really do. In my memory and in this moment together. We turn to the Hashkivenu, a prayer to ask for protection. A Sukkot Shalomecha, a sukkah of peace under which we can all dwell in safety, all of us in safety and love. It is my fervent prayer. Page 42. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu l'shalom Ve'amidenu Malkeinu l'chaim Ufros aleinu sukat shalomecha V'takneinu b'etzah tova milfanecha V'hoshienu, v'hoshienu, leman shemecha. Let your name proclaim your presence in our lives. V'hoshienu, v'hoshienu, leman shemecha. Ushmor tzaytenu u'boenu l'chayim u'shalom me'ata ve'ad olam ufros aleinu sukat shalomecha Baruch atah Adonai Aporei sukat shalom aleinu ve'al kol amo Yisrael ve'al kol yoshvei tevel ve'al Yerushalayim. Page 45 for the Chatzi Kaddish. Hitkadal, Vitkadash, Shemei Rabbah, Ve'almad Irach Yirutei, Ve'amlich Malchutei, B'chayechon, U'vyomechon, U'v'chayei Dechol Beit Yisrael, Ba'gala, U'vizman Kariv, Ve'meru, Amen. Join me, Yehesh Me'Rabba Mevorach, Le'olam Olam Me'omaya, Yitbarach, Yitbarach, Vishtabach, Vitpa'ar, Vitramam, Vitnaseh, Vitadar, Vitala, Vitalal, Shemei Dekudeshah, Brechu. Le'ela ule'ela min kol berchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata damiran be'alma ve'imeru We are moving to the Amidah, the standing prayer. And again, I'm going to sit for a moment, but I invite you to rise, and then I'm going to join you in a moment as we sing Adonai Sifatai Tiftach. And we'll move into the Amidah, which is on page 46. You can pray along with these words. You can listen. You can pray the prayers of your heart. Adonai Sfatai Tiftach. We step back 3 times. Adonai Sfatai Tiftach. And we step forward into the ancestors. Ufi Yagi Ufi Yagid Dilatecha. We stand alone in front of ourselves. Adonai Sfatai Tiftach. Adonai Svatai Tivta Adonai Svatai Tivta. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei Avoteinu v'Imotenu Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, V'konei Hakol, V'zocher Chasdei Avot v'Imahot, U'mevii Geula Livnei V'neihem, L'man Shemo B'Yahava. Zochreinu l'chaim, melech hafetz b'chaim, v'kodreinu b'sefer ha'chaim, l'manacha Elohim ha'chaim. Melech Ozer u'Moshiach u'Magen. Baruch atah Adonai Magen Avraham Bezrat Sarah. Atah Gibor le'olam Adonai Mechayei hakol Atah le'Hoshia Morid hatah Mechalkel chayim bechesed Mechayei hakol berachamim rabim Zomek noflim berafei cholim Umatir asurim Umekayim emunato Lishanei afar Michamocha bal gevurot Umidom elach Melech memit umechayei Umatzmiach Yeshua Michamocha el harachamim Zocher Yitzuram lechayim berachamim V'nehamanatan achayot hakol Baruch atah Adonai Mechayei hakol U'v'chein tein pachtecha Adonai Eloheinu U'v'chein tein kavod Adonai le'amecha U'v'chein tzadikim yiru v'yismachu v'yisharim ya'alozu V'timloch atah Adonai l'madecha al kol ma'asecha B'har Tzion mishkan kevodecha U'v'Yushalayim ir kodshecha Kakatuv b'divrei kodshecha Page 58 Yimloch Adonai le'olam Elohai Tzion Lidor vador, hallelujah. Hadosh atah v'nora shemecha, ve'ein Eloha mibaladecha. Kakatuv vayigbar Adonai tzevahot b'mishpat, ve'ayel hakadosh nikdach b'tzdaka. Baruch atah Adonai HaMelech HaKadosh. You can take the time you need for the rest of the words of this Amidah or the words that are on your heart tonight. You can turn off your video if you want to move around. Please continue if you're still davening. We will turn to page 78, prayer for peace in this particular moment. B'sefer Chaim bracha v'shalom u'farnasa tova nizacher v'nikatev lefanecha b'sefer Chaim bracha v'shalom u'farnasa tova nizacher v'nikatev lefanecha anachnu v'chol amcha beit Yisrael l'chaim tovim u'shalom l'chaim tovim u'shalom.
Beautiful. So we're going to move out of that prayer for peace. And now it's my pleasure to introduce our president, Carolyn Clausen. So Carolyn, hopefully you're able to take yourself off mute. There you are.
Hello, everyone. Shana Tova. As the rabbi said, my name is Carolyn Clausen, and I am the board president of Kolot Chayeinu. Now, I come from a long line of people who have been on the boards of their congregations, although in my family, it was always the congregations of churches. Long, long line going back as far as my mother's family is documented, really. They've been on the boards of their churches. But when I converted to Judaism, I really didn't see a congregation being part of my life. I converted to this really wonderful political community that was merging Judaism and activism in all these ways that were powerful to me and full of these people who had suspicion and felt alienation from Jewish institutions, which I assumed we were all in together until somebody brought me to High Holidays at Kolot. And I looked around and said, "We have a shul?" Nobody told me we have a shul. I was really thrilled to discover at Kolot this community that's built around keeping pretty open doors, literally when we're in person, virtually now, to a wide range of people who will enter, and then empowering and enabling those people once they enter to really be a part of shaping this community, to deciding what we will look like going forward now those people are here. And personally, it has meant a lot for me to be not only welcomed into actively shaping this community, but welcomed into the leadership of actively shaping this community. And I love that this is a community that delights in having a 33-year-old queer anti-Zionist, relatively recent convert as your board president. Thank you for that, Kolot. But I'm really grateful to Kolot, not just what that has meant for me, but because I love being a part of the community where I can see that happening for so many other people around me, where there are so many stories of finding that Kolot's doors are open to you and have opened up unexpected things for other people and their relationships to Judaism and to Jewish community. I love what it means to build community with all of you, whether that's our 525 members or this community that gathers at our largest at High Holidays. And since I'm the board president, you know where this is going. I'm about to talk about the resources it takes to run that community. But I want to be real about that, because as board president, I've seen up close what that means and the choices that we at Kolot make based on our values and the resources it takes to fund those choices. So I'll just talk about two. One is that we've known for years that our High Holiday services would be more affordable for Kolot if we had tickets and if we limited attendance and if we got spaces that could actually hold our community. And we have always chosen instead to leave our doors open to whoever may show up. That is one, because it is our value that people should be able to show up to services. And two, because we know that our community would not be complete without the kind of crew you get of people who don't necessarily get tickets in advance, to everybody who just shows up. Two, and this year in particular, it would be so much easier and take so many fewer resources to do nice, simple services. And they would be beautiful because we have a great rabbi and a great cantor who can do lovely services all on their own. But we know that that wouldn't be Kolot. And so Kolot chooses to do the much more complicated thing of bringing out many different voices in the congregation, of coordinating with all of those people, of supporting them and offering their droshes, their music, and all the beautiful ways that Kolotniks are embedded into these services that we experience at Rosh Hashanah and will experience over Yom Kippur. And again, we make that choice, not because it's the easy choice, but because it's the choice that is Kolot, that makes this community what it is. So, on to the money. And in case you were thinking about tuning out, I'm going to ask you not to. Instead, I want you to first think deeply about what it means to you to have Kolot as a space you can show up for right now. Whether you're a member and you show up at Kolot regularly, whether you're a member and do not show up at Kolot regularly, whether you're one of our high holiday regulars who comes every year and not in between, or whether you're somebody who just found our community tonight. I want you to think about what it means for you that this place is here in the form that it is. And second, I want you to think about what it means that Kolot is here for other people. Think of the other faces you're seeing in this gallery view. Think of the other people you've known at Kolot. What it means to you to be in this community, this particular form of community. And of all the resources it takes to make that possible in an ongoing and sustainable way. So what does that take? We've put out some numbers, which means we're asking members for $180, non-members for $360. And as we always say at Kolot, you figure out where along the spectrum is right for you, keeping in mind that could be way less than those amounts. I'm a grad student. It's often been way less than those amounts for me. It may be way more than that. And if it's comfortable for you to give way more, I seriously, on behalf of all of us grad students who can't give way more, ask you to do so. There's a link that's been dropped into the chat. You can also give on our website at any time. You can also support the post office and mail checks to our office. We still get them there. One note, I hear that our online system is acting up a bit tonight, so maybe wait until after the holiday to do it. All the links will still be operating then. Two, we really would love it if you joined us as a member. In recent weeks, we have seen people joining Kolot in really large numbers in a way that is meaningful to us, to know that many people are solidifying their commitment to Kolot and formally joining the community in a way where we can have an ongoing relationship with you. And I encourage all of you to do that. Our sliding scale membership fees means you can do it really easily for whatever cost is right for you, just like high holidays. And finally, as board president, I just need to take a moment to thank all of you out there who have given beyond your dues, beyond your high holiday donations to our journey forward. Kolot's really successful 3-year campaign of people making 3-year pledges to support this community. And I'm amazed by all of the people who have stepped up and done them in Kolot fashion at the levels that make sense for them. And thank you, everyone. Thank you to all of you for being here tonight, for making our community what it is tonight. Shana Tova, I'm looking forward to being with you next year in good health and in person.
In good health and in person, I'm into that. Yes, that's my prayer. So we're going to transition now to the section of this evening Yom Kippur service, which is confessions, the Vidui and the Ashamnu. And for a kavanah, for words of intention, before we move to this section now, it's my pleasure to invite Adam Jacobs and Tabitha St. Bernard Jacobs, who are gonna give us some words of intention as we move to this next part of our service.
Okay, you can hear us? We're good?
We got you.
Excellent.
We're just getting our tech set up. And we have a very awake 5-year-old, so we're hoping we get through this.
Take your fingers, curl them into a fist, bow your head slightly and strike. Slightly to the side of the center of your chest, right on your heart. Don't strike too hard, but enough that you can feel it, so that it wakes you up. Traditional Jews strike 680 times over the course of Yom Kippur, starting with the afternoon mincha prayer before and going all the way through the afternoon of Yom Kippur. The Vidui, the confession of sins, is a journey through the wrongs that we have and could have done this past year. Ashamnu, we are guilty. Bagadnu, we have betrayed. Gazalnu, we have robbed. Dibarnu dofi, we have slandered. We will feel the pain of each strike, the visceral jolt that reminds us that we are responsible for our individual actions as well as the actions of others. By beating our chest, we are not simply saying words, we are giving more depth to each admittance of guilt. Judaism, especially during these days of repentance, relies heavily on physical representations. The shofar blasts hit our soul. The bread we throw into the water for Tashlich on Rosh Hashanah means that we can watch our sins literally float away. And soon we will build Sukkot, temporary structures reminding us of our connection to the land and how vulnerable life can be. Why do we need these physical representations to wake us up? Why aren't we already more awake? These traditions harken back to Vayikra, or Leviticus, chapter 16, verse 8 in the Torah, where the high priest took the sins of the people, transferred them onto a goat, the scapegoat, and sent that goat off to Azazel. While nobody knows what Azazel is, the fact that a sin is something that can be transferred to another object and sent off has stuck with us. So what does banging on our chest do for us? Teshuvah means return. We go back and we figure out why and how the sin came to be. We strike our chests and transfer sins to bread because often words are empty. We need this physical struggle to identify ways to actually do better. We don't always know why or how we can improve, but we believe that we can repent. We can do better next year. So where does individual responsibility end? And where does collective action begin?
Knocking on our chest one day a year is one thing, but we need to have a conversation about what is actually awakening us to the sins that we commit throughout the year as individuals and as a society. We are often woken up by tragedy, but how many Black people need to be murdered by police? And then those police are not held accountable before we look at systemic change. And how many children need to be put in cages, and how segregated do our schools need to be? It risks being very performative. The idea of people saying that we repent for sins without a follow-up commitment to dismantle the systems that allowed us to actually perform the sin in the first place. We will be back to doing this same thing again next year. There is real ongoing work needed to repair sins against people who have been harmed. So as a Black person, I face harm every day. Personally, I don't need white people to apologize to me for harm done. So instead of apologizing, I need them to acknowledge the harm done. Take the time to deeply examine the systems that one is complicit in and commit to breaking them. Words don't mean anything if not followed by action. What if we could address the harm before it happens? So is it possible to recognize sin and oppression without someone feeling pain? It took George Floyd to get murdered for systems of racism to take national attention. But will this sustain? Since then, there have been more Black people killed by police, and many white people have gone back to business as usual. What does it take to not go back to life as usual? When you beat oneself on the chest, this is an important part of Yom Kippur, but it must be followed up with action. It must be followed up with dismantling the oppressive systems that continue to marginalize and harm Black and brown people. and then commit to rebuilding a more equitable society. May we recognize that the we of these sins is everyone, and the time to start the repair is today. What are you atoning for? What am I atoning for? What are we atoning for?
Amen. Amen, amen, amen. May those words echo in all of our hearts as we move now to page 83. And as was said, I invite you, let this be the beginning, not the end.
And if it's your custom, please do rise. Eloheinu, Elohei Avotenu Mimotenu, Tavo lefanecha tefilatenu, ve'al titalam mitchinatenu, anachnu azefanim, ve'al titalam mitchinatenu, anachnu azefanim ukashei oref lomar lefanecha Adonai Eloheinu Elohei Avotenu v'imotenu tzadikim anachnu v'lo chatanu aval anachnu chatanu Yain alai dai dai yana dai 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 yana dai 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 Ashamnu bagadnu gazalnu dibarnu dofi Yai lai 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 ya la dai 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 ya da dai 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 Pevinu v'hirshanu zadnu chamasnu tafalnu shaker yai lai lai dai dai ya da dai 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 ya da dai 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 Yatnu ra kizavnu latnu maradnu niyatnu sararnu avinu pashanu sararnu kishinu oref yai lai 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 ya da 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 ya da 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 Rashanu Shichatnu Tiavnu Tainu Titanu Yai lai 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 ya da 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 ya da 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 Page 86 and 87. Al chet shechatanu lefanecha b'zadonu v'ishkaga Al chet shechatanu lefanecha b'dibur peh
The ways we have wronged you deliberately and by mistake, and harm we have caused in your word through words of our mouths.
Al chet shechatanu lefanecha be'imutz halev ve'al chet shechatanu lefanecha bitfishut peh
The ways we have wronged you by hardening our hearts, and harm we have caused in your world through careless speech.
Al chet shechatanu lefanecha b'chachashuv chazal ve'al chet shechatanu lefanecha birchilut
The ways we have wronged you through lies and deceit, and harm we have caused in your world through gossip and rumor.
Al chet shechatanu lefanecha b'flilut ve'al chet shechatanu lefanecha bilzul horim umorim
the ways we have wronged you by judging others unfairly, and harm we have caused in your world through disrespect to parents and teachers.
על חטא שחטאנו לפניך בווידוי פה, ועל חטא שחטאנו לפניך בהונאת רע.
The ways we have wronged you through insincere apologies, and harm we have caused in your world by mistreating a friend or neighbor.
על חטא שחטאנו לפניך בחוזק יד, ועל חטא שחטאנו לפניך במשא ובמתן.
The ways we have wronged you through violence and abuse, and harm we have caused in your world through dishonesty in business.
Please join me. Ve'al kulam Eloha selichot, selach lanu mechalanu kapelanu. Ve'al kulam Eloha selichot, slach lanu mechalanu, selach lanu mechalanu kapelanu.
You can have a seat. We'll continue now on page 96. We don't get to do our usual secret hand signals. On page 96, the cantor will sing Ya'aleh. These are songs of forgiveness.
Okay. All right, I want you to bang on the tables and with your instruments and on your knees, not too hard on your chests. Be kind to yourselves, but let our cries and our needs rise up. Ya'aleh, 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 Tachanuneinu, Tachanuneinu, Erev v'yavo, v'yavo, Shabbateinu, Shabbateinu, miboker v'yera'eh, v'yera'eh, Rinuneinu, 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 Adarev, Ya'aleh, 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 Ya'olenu, Koleinu, Ve'erev, Ve'yavo, Ve'yavo, Tzidkateinu, Tzidkateinu, miboker v'yera'eh, v'yera'eh, Pidyoneinu, 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 Adarev, Ya'aleh, 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 Ya'aleh. Last verse. Yenkatenu, Enkatenu, Me'erev v'yavo, v'yavo, Eilecha, Eilecha, miboker v'yera'eh, v'yera'eh, Eileinu, 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 Adarev, Ya'aleh, 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 Ya'aleh. And it's still me. We're on page 98. Hear our call, Adonai our God, Shema Kolenu. Show us compassion. Shema, Shema, Koleinu, Shema, Koleinu. Shema, Shema, Koleinu, Shema, Koleinu. Adonai Eloheinu, Shema, Koleinu. Adonai Eloheinu, Shema, Koleinu. Shema Koleinu, Adonai Eloheinu, Chus v'rachem aleinu, v'kabel v'rachamim uvratzon et tefilateinu. Hashiveinu Adonai elecha, Hashiveinu Adonai elecha, v'nashuva. Chadish, Chadish Yameinu, Chadish, Chadish Yameinu, Kedem. Shema, Shema Koleinu, Shema Koleinu. Shema, Shema Koleinu, Shema Koleinu. Adonai Eloheinu, Shema Koleinu. Adonai Eloheinu, Shema Koleinu. Page 100 for 13 attributes. Adonai, Adonai, El Rachum V'Chanun. Please join me. Erech Apayim V'Rav Chesed V'Emet. Notzer Chesed L'Alafim. Nosei Avon V'Fesha. V'Nata V'Chata V'Nakei. Adonai, Adonai, El Rachum V'Chanun, Erech Apayim, V'Rav Chesed V'Emet, Notzer Chesed L'Alafim, Nosei Avon V'Fesha, V'Chata V'Nakei. Adonai, Adonai, El Rachum V'Chanun, Erech Apayim, V'Rav Chesed V'Emet, Notzer Chesed L'Alafim, Nosei Avon V'Fesha, V'Chata V'Nakei. Page 106. Ki anu amecha ve'ata Eloheinu, anu amecha ve'ata Avinu, anu avecha ve'ata Adonenu, anu kehalecha ve'ata chelkeinu, anu nachalatecha ve'ata goravenu, anu etanecha ve'ata roenu. Hay alai, hay da 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 da. Hay da 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 da. Hay 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 da 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 da. Hay da 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 da. Hay da 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 da.
We move now to Avinu Malkeinu, which is on page 112. Avinu Malkeinu is this cry for help that is so much older and so much bigger than all of us. It is so much bigger and so much older than this moment in history. May we feel buoyed and grounded by that fact, by the fact that these words have been sung for centuries. And tonight we sing them perhaps across further spaces. We're singing them across Brooklyn, across New York, across all the other states that you are coming to from. Sing out from wherever you are on page 112.
Avinu Malkeinu, Hanenu, Hanenu, Ki ein manu ma'asim. Avinu Malkeinu, Hanenu, Hanenu, Ki ein manu Avinu Malkeinu, Hanenu Vaneinu, Avinu Malkeinu, Hanenu Vaneinu, Ki ein banu ma'asim. Raise your voices. Haseimanu tzedakah v'chesed. Haseimanu tzedakah v'chesed v'yoshienu. Avinu Malkeinu, Hanenu Vaneinu, Avinu Malkeinu, Hanenu Vaneinu, Ki ein banu ma'asim.
Beautiful. I'm going to move now to the drash, the sermon. In the before time, I felt so strongly the ways that a Dvar Torah, a sermon, was a spiritual practice. And what enabled that was all of you and the connection to all of you and the energy all of you gave. So it's hot in my apartment. It's late. I'm going to ask all of you to do whatever you can in this moment to arrive into a moment of receiving a Dvar Torah. Because just as the cantor said, she can hear your harmonies, I swear I can also hear your amens. And I can hear you out there as well. So I ask you to come to a point of arrival for receiving. A few months ago, I asked my friend Lainey, a Talmud teacher who I often turn to for insight and wisdom, if they had any thoughts about the upcoming holiday of Tisha B'Av, a day of mourning where Jews traditionally sit on the floor. We sit on the ground the whole day as we fast. Lainey said, Tisha B'Av, what, I'm gonna sit on the floor? I haven't been comfortable since March. A few weeks ago, I went back and I asked them, what are you thinking for Yom Kippur now? What are you thinking about? And they said, Yom Kippur, the day of affliction? Oh, every day is Yom Kippur now. And Lainey was right. The idea of this holiday, of afflicting ourselves by fasting, or bringing ourselves to a place of focus and intention, specifically by stripping away all other forms of comfort, that feels like a tall order this year. This time is already one of affliction. Depression and grief are the ground so many of us are walking on. In the past 6 months in our congregation, there has been so much mourning, so much loss, with virtual funerals and shivas week after week. And for so many of us, there is also a low drone of worry underneath everything. Worry about our government, our climate, our racist policing system, our loved ones and their health. And that is all compounded with just the cognitive exhaustion of living so much of our lives in these Zoom boxes and so much of our lives in our own homes. I know I'm not alone in the ways this time has stretched me to my limits. So many in our community and in our world are living through the pandemic while also battling other struggles, including facing trauma, addiction, and depression. So we need to make things harder with self-denial and fasting? For real? I am fasting this year. But unlike past years, where fasting was a sudden jolt into another state, something that helped me focus, something that took me to a place where it was harder to suppress the most difficult things, this year fasting simply feels like drawing a little more attention to what we already have been experiencing, to the grappling we have been doing for months. Lainey was right in another way too. It has been Yom Kippur every day because we have also begun the sacred work of collective reckoning for some time now. Let us acknowledge the labor that it took to start that work, that the movement for Black lives and the movements for a dignity of essential workers and all workers have brought us to a point of reckoning, brought many of us, not all of us, still not far enough, but we're working on that. But if this is the case, if we've been in a kind of low-grade Yom Kippur for so long now already, then why are hundreds of us here tonight in this space declaring it Yom Kippur, saying we need to show up and do these rituals and practices of Yom Kippur? For many, The answer is community. It's about not wanting to be alone on this night, because this night is a big one. It is bigger than us. That's what tradition means. It means it's bigger than us. It means it's bigger than this moment in history. And perhaps it's about also not wanting to be alone when the task before us of finding a way to still hold Yom Kippur is so daunting. But maybe it doesn't have to be so daunting this year. Maybe this is not the year where I should talk to you about the earth trembling in judgment before the Lord. Maybe I just shouldn't say any sentences that sound anything like that. Maybe this year we look to other voices, other strands of the liturgy that can guide us towards change, but without adding additional pain. And this doesn't mean tonight we won't aspire to radical change. It doesn't mean that that kind of change isn't critical and necessary, but maybe it means we find a different way in. Maybe it means we approach things differently this night. Kol Nidre offers a way, I think, the ritual we began with. And I can hear the ad now for Kol Nidre. In my mind, it's like, tired of a punishing God? Don't think you can handle any more affliction, but your broken society still desperately needs you to make change? And also so does your family and probably your friends? Try Kol Nidre, a medieval legal formula for annulling vows instead. Kol Nidre is a ritual that nullifies all the vows we have taken in the past year and all the vows we will take in the coming year. It is solemn and legal and very specific, but I think it's also a ritual for just letting go. On this night, in annulling vows, we grant one another permission to let go of the commitments we could not keep, as well as the false promises that never served us. For example, one theory about Kol Nidre, as you heard earlier tonight, is that it was added after the Spanish Inquisition when so many Jews were forcibly converted, meaning Kol Nidre would nullify those vows and those false promises that had been forced on so many people, meaning Kol Nidre allows us to let go of oppressive frameworks. And then in that open space of possibility to move forward into the next year. The relationship between this kind of letting go and at the same time the need for change, it makes me think of a beloved poem, Everything Changes, by the playwright and poet Bertolt Brecht. He writes, everything changes. You can make a fresh start with your final breath. But what has happened. And the water you once poured into the wine cannot be drained off again. What has happened. The water you poured into the wine cannot be drained off again. But everything changes. You can make a fresh start with your final breath. Those words, breath and water, I think they offer a gentle and organic vision of how to accept and create change, how to let go while also not giving up, simultaneously not giving up. This poem also, I think, reminds us there are consequences that cannot be undone. Too many people took their last breaths this year because of government negligence during the pandemic, because of racist police brutality, because of environmental crisis. So what changes? What critical, necessary, fresh start do we declare tonight that we will commit to making in their memory? Naming the reality of the past, accepting what has happened, facing how bad things have gotten, how much harm we may have done, how much harm has been done to us, is part of how we move through it, but not just for the sake of forgiveness alone, for the sake of finding a new pathway to mutual liberation and healing. Which is not to say we don't need a sense of urgency. Tomorrow, in the Haftorah reading, we'll hear God speaking to the people through the prophet Isaiah as they repent and fast. God says through Isaiah, "Is this the fast I desire?" Every year I think I'm making it up that this is what it sounds like, but it does. "Is this the fast that I desire? A day for people to starve their bodies? Do you think I want you to bow your head like the reeds and to mortify your bodies with coarse cloth and ashes? You call that a fast? A day when Adonai will look upon you with favor? No, this is the fast I desire. Unlock the chains of wickedness. Untie the knots of servitude. Let the oppressed go free." That is the fast. The action is the ritual. Isaiah is not interested in good intentions or guilt or shows of guilt or moral hand-wringing or self-flagellation. He also does not know about incremental reforms. He is not interested in more comfortable chains. He's heavy-handed, sure. It's either, yes, the chains are unbroken, they're broken, or they're not. But he speaks that way because there is an emergency. And we too are in an emergency. Isaiah says that God does not want us merely to fast, only to feel anything. That does not break a single chain. That alone does not break a single chain. Shame frees no one. And it does not support anyone fighting to break their own chains, who Isaiah is also speaking to, I think. What's more, if we afflict our souls today, if we do that tonight, and if we do that tomorrow, if we afflict, and we feel awful, and then the next day, we feel very proud of ourselves for how terrible we made ourselves feel. We feel better because we believe there was virtue in the ashes and the sackcloth. If we believe that by virtue of how bad we feel about any status or privilege or power, then, and we believe we have changed something by virtue of how bad we feel, then we have not fully done teshuvah. We have not fully done repair. According to Maimonides, who's sort of just a long ago, very important Jewish thinker, the process of teshuvah begins with feeling remorse and confessing wrongdoing. It starts, of course, with naming it and with feeling it, but it is not complete until a person's choices are fundamentally altered, until their actions are different every time. In Isaiah's case, until the chains are broken. Kol Nidre tells us to let go of false narratives in order to enter the new year as free people. And Isaiah tells us to break chains of oppression for the same reason. So what ideologies, what ideological frameworks, and what real physical chains do we need to break open and cast aside this year in the name of our collective freedom? Over 2 million people in this country are incarcerated in prisons and jails, youth facilities, and ICE detention centers. And I want to acknowledge all of you here tonight, watching on the live stream, whose lives have been directly impacted by this system, or who love someone who has been impacted by this system. This summer, the murders of Breonna Taylor and George Floyd brought hundreds of thousands to the streets. And we now know, of course, that none of the 3 officers responsible for Taylor's death will be charged with her murder. For a long time, people have said our justice system is broken. But now, the conversation has shifted, and more and more and more people are naming that in a way, the system is not broken. It is working according to the logic that built it 400 years ago, or the logics it was built out of 400 years ago. The logic of keeping poor people and people of color down and divided. Legendary activist Angela Davis writes not only about the chains of mass incarceration, not only about how it functions, she writes about the narratives that keep us as a society bound to a system that criminalizes both poverty and addiction. Davis argues that when we talk about abolition and transformative justice, many people envision a single substitute for the prison system, an idea which inevitably sounds inconceivable, given how huge our prison system is and how many social issues we solve with policing. She writes then that the first step is this, quote, to let go of the desire, the narrative, to find one single alternative system of punishment that would occupy the same footprint of the prison system. That is the first step to justice, is letting go of that idea. And the second step, she says, is to invest in time over multiple interconnected systems of housing, healthcare, unemployment, addiction treatment, structural restorative justice practices, and real community safety practices. All of that collectively would ultimately replace prisons. Again, Davis's first step, like Kol Nidre, is letting go of a narrative that doesn't serve us and our collective human thriving. Another narrative that needs letting go is the one that tells us that punishment and incarceration is the only way to create safety. And the idea that those methods are worth the trauma and violence that they cause. To put it very simply, our justice system is not one of teshuvah. It does not support people in repairing damage they have done. And what's more, so often people are incarcerated because of wrongs that have been done to them, including in crimes of poverty and self-defense against domestic violence. Before the pandemic, I honestly hadn't read much in depth about these ideas of these kinds of transformations and abolition at this scale. And after reading Angela Davis and Mariam Kaba in the wake of these recent uprisings, I have been floored by how concrete and possible transformation feels in their writing. So if you haven't already, I invite you to delve into their work, into the work of Davis and Kaba and other visionary Black women organizers who write about the criminalization of Black people. And regardless of your reactions to what you read, regardless of your reactions to the text, afterwards, I think the most important thing is to ask yourself, how will we commit to doing the most we can to fight for a more just system from a place of possibility and transformation? Because honestly, for a moment, consider it. What would a real world built out of teshuvah look like? A real world built out of repair and return look like and feel like? How much safer and freer we all would feel moving through that world. In that world, everything from schools to hospitals to unemployment would need to change. And if it feels hard to imagine all of that, lucky you, it's the days of awe. It's a fantastic time for imagining things at a really cosmic, tremendous, massive scale. The early rabbis, they wrote about the massive power of these holy days to shift even God's perspective about what could be possible in the new year. In the Talmud, in the part where they talk about Rosh Hashanah, tractate Rosh Hashanah, the rabbis taught that God begins Rosh Hashanah sitting in the throne of judgment, Din. And God is sitting there waiting and ready to judge us and dole out the harshest possible sentences. That's how we start. And then the shofar is blown. And God is so startled by the sound of the shofar, so moved that God gets up out of the throne of judgment and moves seats to the throne of Rachamim, the throne of mercy, and finishes the days of awe from that place, the throne of mercy. I think this is a story about action, about moving from one state of being to another in the name of compassion, possibility, surprise. Tomorrow night, we'll end all of this holy time with one last shofar blast, because that is the way we leave Yom Kippur and the spirit by which we propel ourselves into the new year, believing change is possible. I want to offer you all a blessing. And for this blessing, I invite you to either rise as you're able, and if that's not comfortable, to shift in your chair so that you're just somehow in a little bit of a different position. And I'll do the same here. May we move from the seat of judgment. May we move from the place of shame. May we move from the place of punishment. May we rise in body or in spirit out of all our stuck places, out of whatever narratives are causing harm to ourselves or to others. May we seek action and not affliction. May we seek transformation and pleasure, not punishment. May we sound the shofar all around us, shaking the halls of power, shaking our own notions of what is possible this year. Gamar Chatima Tova. May you each be sealed in the book of life. Amen. We can't hear you.
Can you hear me now? Whoops, can you hear me? Yes, okay. Okay, thank you, Rabbi. That was beautiful. I guess you needed a little more space behind that beautiful drash. So let's all rise again, if you're able. And we'll just chant these words for the Eleno. Ein od milvado. There is no one but God. God is God. It's in the zine if you need it. Ein od milvado, ein od milvado Adonai hu ha-Elohim. Ein od milvado, ein od milvado Adonai hu ha-Elohim. Ein od milvado
You can have a seat again. We turn to the Mourner's Kaddish, which is found on page 122. We lift up the names Breonna Taylor and George Floyd. We lift up the legacy of Ruth Bader Ginsburg. We lift up the memories of the 200,000 COVID deaths in this country. I invite you to put into the chat the names of anyone you are remembering in this time, losses within the past weeks, months, up to a year, or the anniversary of a loss. I'll let those come in. And we hold all these names with love as we watch the scroll come through. We'll make space tomorrow during the Yizkor service to hold all of what is here. I invite you to rise on page 122 as you're able, if you are saying the Mourner's Kaddish. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei rabbah, v'yamad divrach yirtei, v'yamlich malchutei, v'chayechon uvyomechon, uv'chayei d'chol Beit Yisrael, v'agala v'zman kariv v'imru, amen. Yehei shmei rabbah mevorach le'olam u'le'omei omaya, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yithromam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shmei d'kudusha v'rechu, Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tush bechata v'nechemata, da'amiram be'alma v'imru. Amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shamaya, v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. Oseh shalom b'romav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol yoshvei tevel v'imru. Amen. And I invite you to rise if you're not already standing. As you're able, in body or in spirit. We'll sing Zichrono Livracha. May all their memories be for a blessing.
Zichrono Livracha. Zichrono Livracha. Zichronam Livracha. We are blessed, remembering you. Zichrono Livracha. Zichrono Livracha. We are blessed, remembering you. You can have a seat.
And a reminder that tomorrow in our Yizkor service, we invite you to bring photos of the people you're remembering. There'll be a part in our service where we'll hold them up and look at each other's loved ones together. You can also bring a candle and a match. I'm now going to invite again President Carolyn Clausen to do our closing announcements, and then I'll just introduce our closing song before we say goodnight. So Carolyn.
Okay, everyone, some reminders about tomorrow. Number one, you already have all the links you need to everything if you're in the Zoom, and if you're joining us by live stream, you will also be able to do that again tomorrow. From 9 to 9:30, our youngest ones are going to be having a song circle on the Zoom. 10 to 10:40, our youth and family services, and then everyone can meet right back here at 10:30 for our main services. there is a lot going on after services tomorrow afternoon. We have adult learning, we have Yizkor, we have Neela, and we're going to have a little mini break fast together. One note about adult learning, we're going to be having back-to-back sessions, and this Zoom is going to be the place you go. So same Zoom link for that. You'll come here and you'll be put in a breakout room for learning. Quick reminder from my pitch earlier, make your high holiday donation, become a member. You can do all of that on our website, and you might be running into problems tonight with our web stuff, but that's great because after high holidays, it's also a great time to join and donate. So you can do that right after you break your fast, maybe tomorrow. Everything should be working.
Thanks so much, Carolyn. Our closing music this night comes from our very own Marty Ehrlich, and we're gonna listen to his beautiful music as we close. And then I'm just gonna introduce what we're going to do. So we'd had this custom of leaving Kol Nidre in silence so that what had been felt and said could sort of linger. But then the truth is, then we all, hugged and said hello when we got to the hallway also. So we held both of those, the heaviness of it and the sweetness of seeing each other. So we want to try to strike that balance of both of those things. We're still 530 screens here together, which I think probably means something like 600 people. So we'll hear Marty's beautiful music as our close, and then we're gonna put back on our opening playlist, and our sort of rotating cameras jumbotron will go, and so we can wave and say hello to each other, but we'll hold the sweetness of seeing each other, but not the sort of silliness that we had on Rosh Hashanah. So we're just gonna try to hold it all together at once. So now to lead us out, we're gonna hear Marty's beautiful, beautiful music, just sort of let this night sink in to our bones. And you can write things in the chat as we spend this time together. All right. Gemar Tov, Shana Tova to all of you. We'll see you in the morning. I think, Lisa, are you trying to say something? No. Okay, great. We just send all of you blessings for may the prayers of your heart and the meditations that stuck with you this service, may they guide you through the rest of this night and through the rest of tomorrow. And we'll see you tomorrow. Gemar Tov, Shana Tova. May it be a good year.